Hello, everyone. It's Sinema77, horror cult film lover. I'm back with another movie review. Now, I'm sure you guys remember if you've seen the video, it's still on the channel. A while back, I made a video where I talked about there was this craze of erotic thrillers that was kind of a trend going through the 1990s. And the video's still up. It's still on the channel if you want to look at it. But one of the things, though, too, that was kind of really interesting was these thrillers. They all starred legitimate actresses and actors from the 1970s and 1980s. And you had a lot of these actors and actresses who, they were known for being in big hit movies and all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden now they're doing these movies where they're taking their clothes off. And one actor and one actress we're going to talk about, I think really surprised people in 1990 was Andrew Stevens and Tanya Roberts. Now, Andrew Stevens, I already mentioned him before when I reviewed A Woman Scorned and talked about him and Shannon Tweed. But in 1990, for whatever reason, I don't know if maybe Stevens was seeing his career kind of going into a slump, or if he just wanted to get into this kind of movie. But Stevens produced and created a series of films called Night Eyes, and they ran for 4 movies. The first one starred him and Tanya Roberts. Parts 2 and 3 starred him and Shannon Tweed. And then the fourth one was him basically passing the torch. And I forget the actor's name. I'll definitely remember it by the time I get around to reviewing that movie. But the actress in that movie was Paula Barbieri. And unfortunately, if I remember correctly, I think that kind of sunk the Night Eyes series because a lot of people were not really interested in Paula Barbieri because she was connected to the O.J. Simpson case, and that was kind of the thing. It seemed like a lot of people who were connected to Simpson and connected to this case it seemed like they were all trying to profit off of it, especially Kato Kaelin. Everybody remembers, like, he really tried to get, a career going out of this, but I think some people felt that Paula Barbieri did as well. Anyway, we'll save that discussion for another day, but Stevens, he created this series, I believe, of Night Eyes films. He co-wrote and produced and starred in the first movie with Tanya Roberts, and here we go. So, Tanya Roberts for you. And the thing about Tanya Roberts, like I said, it was really surprising to see her and do this kind of movie because she was a very mainstream, legitimate actress. I mean, she was a sex symbol, yes, but, everybody remembered her from movies like, I believe she was a Bond girl in A View to a Kill. She, what else was she in? She was in the movie. Horror fans remember her from the movie Tourist Trap. She was in Red Sonja, The Beastmaster, things like that. And, then later on, and the funny thing was in the 90s, like I said, she was doing these erotic thrillers, and she did several of them. But then she went on to become Midge on That 70s Show. And basically I believe she became kind of like the ultimate MILF fantasy when she was on that show. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about it. Now, the Night Eyes series is actually one of my more favorite series of erotic thrillers. I just thought that the concept was interesting. The story is about Will Griffith, who is he works with his brother. They run a security firm. It's a very 2-man operation. It's just, Will and his brother. I'm trying to remember the character's name. The actor was Cooper Huckabee, who played Buzz in the Funhouse, Toby Hooper's movie. But I'm trying to remember what the brother's name was. But anyway, so they're running this security firm, and they rent themselves out to do security for, movie stars and celebrities and things like that. Well, at the beginning of the movie, we have Will. He's going to get he's going to get coffee for him and his brother. And, Ernie, that was the brother's name, Ernie. So anyway, he's going to get, coffee. And then we realize kind of off the bat that, you have Nikki Walker here, who, played by Tanya Roberts, and she's married to Brian Walker. Nikki is, obviously considered very beautiful and very sexy among men. And we find out that Will is considered very handsome, very sexy, and desired by women. So obviously, we're setting up that these are 2 very attractive people. Well, anyway, so Ernie, meanwhile, he's watching this lady, and this guy breaks into her house and attempts to rape her. And so Ernie goes in to try to stop him. He doesn't get taken out, but he does get knocked down. And so Will comes in and he finds out what's going on. So he goes and, basically comes in and saves the day and, takes down the bad guy. Doesn't kill him, but he, takes him down so he can be arrested and things like that. And the girl is safe. It looks like the man's attempting to rape her, but he doesn't get away with it. And so he, he's joking with his brother, and his brother's like, I'd be better if I just had some sleep. And, Will's all like, next time I think it'd be better if you go get the coffee. Okay, so then we go to the Walker house where we have this, singer, Brian Walker, and his wife, Nikki, who, hang on a minute. Sorry about that. So anyway, so now we go to Brian and his wife, Nikki, and they're having a party. And basically, so Brian, we find out, he's kind of your typical rock star. He cheats on his wife all the time. He does a lot of booze, does a lot of drugs, things like that. And he takes this girl, and we find out later, some interesting things about the girl. But they go upstairs to the bathroom and they start, having sex. Well, Nikki comes up, she finds the two of them, and the two of them get into an argument. Well, the girl leaves, and then they get into an argument, and she's like, just yesterday you were begging me to give you another chance. And he's like, yeah, it's amazing the shit you come up and say when you're sober, isn't it? So they start arguing, and she decides she's going to leave. And, you have that kind of classic, almost horror movie moment where she's outside, it's dark, she's trying to get to her car, she's fumbling with the keys, and she drops them, footsteps approach, and then we find out it's just Will. And he comes up and he's got the keys, he gives them to her, and, make sure she gets to her car safely and everything is okay. So then, the next day, Nikki is in the office with her lawyer, Brian with his lawyer, and they're trying to hammer out the details. They want a divorce and all this other kind of stuff. And Brian's lawyer sets up the deal that she can stay in the house, and Brian will pay to let her stay in the house as long as, on the condition that they arrange for security for Nikki, which she goes along with it. And so they end up calling Night Eyes. And Ernie, he's doing the deal. Will is out jogging with his dog Butch, which I believe was Steven's real life dog. And, so they come home, and Ernie's talking about, hey, this is great. They're going to hire us. We got a job. If, everything works out, we get it, we get like a double bonus and all this other kind of stuff. And so let's go ahead and we'll get everything set up. So they get to the house and they meet the housekeeper, Loretta, I believe her name is. And she tells them, Mrs. Walker isn't home, so just go ahead and start setting up and everything. And of course, Loretta, she's checking out Will. And so, they start setting up cameras and all this other kind of stuff. And they're just kind of doing their normal thing, and everything seems all right and everything. And at one point, Will, he goes into the bedroom and he's looking for a place to set up a camera. And, he's looking not in the bedroom, but he's looking to set one up out on the balcony. Well, Nikki comes in and she looks very gorgeous and very beautiful. And, she's, wearing short shorts, and she's asking him, is this really necessary? And he's like, well, ma'am, I just want to put one out on the balcony. That way we cover the perimeters in case if, intruder or anybody starts to come up to the house, we can see him on the camera. And she's like, okay. So, she takes her robe and she goes out, and she's, next time we see Will, he's, setting up the camera out on the balcony. And Nikki, she's in this white bathing suit, and she's going for a swim, and she just looks so stunning and beautiful, as Tanya Roberts always did. And so, so he's just watching her, and just pretty much he's already starting to crush on her. It's like easy to understand. So anyway, they continue doing their, setting up their cameras and stuff like that. Well, Will is he's kind of dumbfounded because his brother Ernie says, we need to get up here into the vent and all that. And what? Why do we need to get up there? And so they get up there, and, they find that camera has already been set up there. And we discover that basically Will, as well as being a security guard, we find out that he's kind of an electronics expert, that, he knows how to set up cameras and rig them so that everything works well and everything. And so he's asking Will, can you set this up, splicing it with the monitor? He's like, yeah, it's high, better resolution and everything. It's like, it's fancy. It's more better than the ones we use. And Ernie's like, yeah, it's a good thing Brian Walker's a pervert, I guess. So even though, if you see this, because this movie is 1990, okay, this was way before high definition or anything. So it's kind of like if you watch the movie now, you look at it, you'd be like, that's what you consider high resolution back then? Boy, things really come a long way since then. But anyway, so but he looks down and he sees that, the camera is pointing right down on the bedroom. And he's all like, and Will is completely pissed off. It's like, wait a minute, this is Mrs. Walker's bedroom. And so, Ernie's explained to him, it's like, yeah, the thing is, Walker's lawyer let her use the house and they're not going to fight on this. But the trick is this is why we're getting paid so well, is because they want us to catch her, doing some naughty stuff. And so, well, anyway, Will is really upset about the whole thing and he doesn't like it and everything, but he's all like, well, I don't like it either, brother, but we do need the work. So, well, so anyway, so now they're okay. So anyway, so now they're, they get everything set up and all this stuff, and Will is starting to work the night shift, and everything just kind of seems regular at first. He's checking on everything and stuff like that, and at one point he does, he's checking all the cameras, make sure everything works, and so he's, going along with it and everything, and then he decides, well, they want me to do this, I better check on her in the bedroom. Well, she's in the bedroom. She's got this lacy top on and she's laying in bed doing paperwork and stuff like that. And she just looks so stunning and beautiful and all this other kind of stuff. And so he's not digging the whole thing. So the next day, he and Ernie, they're, exercising. They're in the boxing club and, they're hitting the bags. And so, Ernie's like, come on, man, you got to admit she is a looker and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, but he's like, I feel like shit, I feel, this feels like really morally unethical that we're doing this. And so, and he's like, yeah, but, they're paying us and all this stuff. And so anyway, so Will is continuing on and just, going about watching her at night and stuff. And she she lets him know that she's got a guest coming up and, make sure to let him in, make sure he gets in safely and all this stuff. It's like, okay. So this guy shows up and he's kind of a prick and stuff. And I'm going to get into spoilers. I think you guys already know that. But so, he goes and tells the guy that everything's okay. And, she said to meet her up in the bedroom. He's like, okay. So the guy goes up. Well, Will decides he's going to have his lunch break. And so he goes in the kitchen. He sits down. He's hearing some hanky-panky going on. And so he goes back to his station and he's checking on the camera. And Nikki and this guy, they're getting it on. And, he's got her tied up to the bed and they're doing all kinds of naughty stuff and everything else. And so anyway, so yeah, he's got him on tape. So you figure that would pretty much be the end of the situation, right? But anyway, so he decides, the thing is though, is Will is very much falling in love with Nikki and he doesn't want to ruin her, he's on her side. And so he's, doing his thing. And so he goes to visit, Brian and his lawyer, and they're asking him, do you have anything on her? And so he's giving him the tapes, but he neglects to give him the tape showing Nikki and this guy having sex. And of course, Brian and the lawyer, they're pissed off. They're like, you need to get something on her and all this kind of stuff. And he's all like, Mr. Michaels, I'm there as an observer. I can't make something happen, And so, he's going along. And at one point, Ernie comes in and Will's got the camera turned on to the bedroom. So Ernie comes in, he's got some food for him, and they see people having sex in the bed and all this stuff, and he's all like, "Oh my God, we did it! We caught her doing something and all this kind of stuff." Only to find out it's Nikki's girlfriend Ellen who's having sex with a guy in her bed. How they got there, why they got there, what they're doing there, it really makes no sense at all. It's never explained, but that's just what's going on. So anyway, so everything's just kind of going along, and so Nikki comes in and she asks Will if he's had any dinner. And he's like, well, I tried some of that Chinese food. I couldn't get into it though. And so she asks him, would you like to come up to the house? I'm actually a really good cook. I'll make us dinner. And he's like, well, you don't have to do that. And she's like, I don't mind. She's like, I got to have something to eat anyway. And tonight's Loretta's night off. And everyone's like, well, that'd be nice. And so the two of them have dinner together and they're talking and getting to know each other, that kind of thing. So he goes back to work and everything's going great. And so she asks him to go to an art exhibit with her. And so because we find out that Nikki is an artist. And so Will agrees. And so they're, at this art exhibit and stuff. And Brian shows up with this girl that he's hooked up with and everything. And so, they get into a scene and Brian, Brian's trying to grab Nikki, but Will steps in and keeps him from it. And so the next day, they're in the lawyer's office and stuff like that. And they're, so the lawyer's asking him, it's like, would you mind explaining, Mr. Griffith, just what you were doing? And Will's explaining, well, frankly, sir, I was trying to save your client's butt because he's trying to assault his wife in public, as I don't think that would look very good in the divorce case to you. And so then we come to find out that Brian is still very much in love with Nikki, and he's like, I can't get her out of me brain. And so that night, Will is, at his post, he's doing his job, he's checking up on things. And, so then Brian comes in and, we find out later it's not Brian, but Brian comes in and, he tries to grab Nikki and take her away. Where the hell he's going to take her when they're in his house, I don't know. But anyway, so Will sees what's going on. And so he goes to protect Nikki. And so he goes to protect Nikki. And then the two of them give in to their lust and they start having this torrid affair. And one thing that's the downside though. It's like, I do believe the movie it's available to watch on YouTube, but it's a very heavily edited version. If you can ever find it, the only place it exists on right now is VHS. Maybe with any luck, someday down the road, one of these companies like Vinegar Syndrome or Kino Lorber or somebody might get a hold of the rights and release the series on Blu-ray. We can hope. But so anyway, she explains after they get done having their passionate sex and that, so she explains that, he knew how to bypass the alarm and all this other kind of stuff. And so Will gets back to Walker's lawyer, lets him know, your client is some pretty deep shit, man, and all this stuff. And Brian is like, he's screwing my wife and all this stuff and everything. And so things are kind of going on. And Nikki and, at one point, like Ellen and Nikki, they're coming to her house and Brian speeds away in her car. And so they call Will and they file a police report and all this. So they're starting to have, everybody's gone. It's night. It's just the two of them. They're starting to get into their sex and all this. And she tells Will to rape her. And he's like, you're kidding, right? She says, no, I want you to rape me and all this stuff. And so, she's all like, it'll just be a game and all this. And so he goes along with it. And yes, there's plenty of, if you like what you see here, trust me, if you can find the unedited version of the movie right now, it's, you'd be lucky if you find it on VHS. That's pretty much, I think, the only place it exists. But, if you want to see explicit Tanya Roberts nudity, this movie has it. So they continue on their affair. But then at one point, they're in bed together. Brian comes into the house and he's looking. And, at one point, Will tells her to hide in the bathroom. So he goes and Brian and Will get into a confrontation and he shoots Brian. And Brian is dead. And then so, now everything is like really in a shit storm and all this kind of stuff. And then, they actually end up getting Will a lawyer. And the lawyer is telling him that right now we see you on tape sexually abusing Mrs. Walker and all this stuff. And maybe, Brian got a call saying that, she was in trouble and that she needed help. Who made that call and all this kind of stuff. And so, we got you on tape showing you physically abusing her. And he's all like, no, that was a game. That was play. She told me to do it and all this stuff. It's like, it doesn't matter. They got it and they're going to use it to say that you have a violent streak. And maybe instead of, you trying to protect her from him, he's trying to protect her from you and all this stuff. And so Will is now in this bad nightmare and he goes to Ellen asking if there's anything that, she knows that could help him out. And so she's like, well, I'm sorry. I don't want to be involved in this. I don't know what to tell you. So she turns around and she immediately calls calls Nikki. And Nikki calls Will. And he goes over and she explains that the girlfriend, baby doll, Brian's girlfriend, baby doll. And, Will and Ernie make a, joke about that. It's like, what kind of mutant calls her name baby doll? It's like, it's like, she must have a billboard on her chest that says bimbo in training. And Will's like, nah, Bimbette. She's not smart enough to be a full-fledged bimbo. And all this stuff. So anyway, so we find out that she was a plant. She was actually a high-priced call girl hired by Nikki. And she explains to Will that the whole thing was she wanted the divorce from Brian. She wanted everybody to see what he was like. And, that he was always drinking, doing drugs, partying all the time. And, and she's, and he's all like, I did everything to protect you. And so they get into more wild erotic sex and everything else. And so now, the two of them are in bed together. We, coming up on the climax. Will is getting ready to leave, and Nikki's asleep. And so this guy, wearing, a mask, pantyhose mask, breaks in and tries to, Will finds that he's lucky enough to find out the guy's coming, and that they get into a fight, and then we find out it's the guy that Nikki had sex with, the guy that came up to the house, and then we find out that Nikki is actually in on the plan, that they rigged it so that the idea was to make Brian look crazy and make him, so that he would be killed and everything else, and now she's going to kill Will. But he's able to turn the tables on her. He gets the gun, and then Nikki goes to jail. This other guy, he goes to jail, and pretty much, it's just him and his brother, and his brother's consoling him, and that's where the movie ends. It's a very good movie. I like it. It's actually a pretty decent story. It's a low budget film, but it's well made, good acting. Andrew Stevens, he's a very capable actor, and Tanya Roberts does a really good job playing the kind of sexy femme fatale and everything. And honestly, yeah, I say if you can find this movie, especially in the unrated version, I say definitely check it out. And especially if you love, Tanya Roberts and you always wanted to see what she looked like nude, this is definitely the movie to do it with. And yeah, so that was it. Reviewed the first movie. We got 3 more to go. Actually, I do need to hurry up and I really need to hurry up and finish up the Wild Things series. I still need to do the 4th one. Anyway, that's going to do it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. There'll be more videos posted. And that's it, everybody. Take care. Have a good night, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.